Hello, beautiful viewers and listeners, wherever you are in the world, tuning in to this 2024 panel. I am excited to bring you not only a dear friend, but of course a mentor and a crone and someone I respect for all of her knowledge. She's a teacher of mine and always have her on as a guest. One of the first people I will always ask to come back, Babula. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's an absolute honor for me. I love it. And I love these conversations with you, these astrological, soulful conversations that we have. It's fabulous.
Oh, we've both got our moons at the exact same degree. So in Cancer, so we are little soul sister moon sisters, which is a little bit special, isn't it?
It sure is. So we both go through the same transit at the same time.
We are at the moment, and we've got Neptune trining our moon at the moment too, Babula, which has been beautiful, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So excited to be here. And, as you all know, and every video you watch, you see me, ask my guest a question. And this year it's a little bit deeper and a little bit more nuanced because 2023, as I'm still recording this, deep in eclipse season, the eclipse season at the end of the year in October, it's been a really big year of shadow walking and revelations and introspection and death, so much death on so many levels. And, even I just want to highlight really quickly, check back out the 2023 panel where Babula speaks about Saturn in Pisces, which goes still for a lot longer. Like, don't just dismiss that. I would go and watch that again because you really want to connect into that transit, which is long. And we both on that interview spoke about the death, like death being a big thing. So as we are seeing in humanity, so it's pretty huge. But the question I want to talk about is and pose is, an aspect or transit that has happened for you in 2023 and this enormity of 2023, and how knowing the astrology has helped you to navigate that, whether like how you've prepped for that, knowing that, Babula. So if you would be so kind to share, that would be amazing.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to. And one comes to mind immediately, and it's related to what I spoke about last year, Saturn going into Pisces, because on the 7th of March of this year, 2023, Saturn entered the sign of Pisces. And as it did so, it hit my North Node at 0 of Pisces. And now Saturn is retrograding back and is currently at, I think it's almost at 0 again, 1 or 0. So it's going to be coming to the station to turn direct over these next few weeks. So right now, as we speak, it is sitting right on my North Node for the second time. And even when it moves forward, like it's just parked itself right now on my North Node.
Yes, it is there.
It's right there. So that's been a very strong transit for me, as I knew it would be. And then, next year it'll come to my Sun, and the following year it'll be on my Mercury. So I'm getting a strong 3-year or transit of, or Saturn's having a good 3-year go with me. And just to keep it brief, there's a number of ways that I've experienced that. And I knew it's important when we get strong transits to our nodal axis. It's really important. Very karmic, very dharmic, very much about our purpose and our path and so on. And so, currently I'm dealing with an injured foot. Thank you, Saturn. Pisces is the feet. I spoke about the feet last time. Take care of our feet, people. But it was such a minor thing. I was doing some yoga and I love to stretch my feet because my feet get a bit tight. So I'm trying to look after I overstretched, didn't I? And I overstretched a ligament and strained it. I didn't tear anything. And as my osteopath said, you haven't damaged tissue, but it is a strain and it's going to take at least 6 weeks to. So I've been limping around. Saturn is the master at slowing us down and bringing things to a grinding halt to make us face something. And it's usually something we'd kind of rather just skip over, or, no, I've got things to do. I move fairly quickly. And no, I've just been walking around like slowly, literally. So sometimes, as we know, transits manifest in a very literal way, in that 3D way, in the body. He loves to get our attention through the body.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, astrology is always magic, but I think sometimes people are placing so much weight that it will be this incredible synchronistic moment as the butterfly dances around us and gives us enlightenment. No, you fucking hurt your foot and you can't move, motherfucker. Like,
exactly, exactly. And therein lies the teaching.
Exactly. And the literal transits are brilliant because they're right there and you can't escape them. And it's not trying to get out of your body or get out of your situation. You have to be in it, because those very metaphoric transformations that we may have, or messages or transits that do happen. I mean, right now, you know, we're both going through Neptune trining our moon, which is a once in a lifetime transit for us. Like, this is very beautiful. It's very psychic and telepathic and really beautiful. But, you know, there might not be like as much literal manifestation. Maybe I'm carrying quite a lot of fluid, so I've got that sort of as a thing. But, you know, it's interesting that when it comes to be so physical and in the 3D, that it really is an enormous teacher, and just shows how powerful astrology is, right?
Really. And then, and again, on the physical, on top of that, over the last month or so, I have a recurring viral thing. It's, you know, many people relate to this. I'll say what it is, because it'll make sense to a lot of people. It's, you know, Epstein-Barr. I've been dealing with it on and off for years. And it's been really great and pretty much under control for quite some time. Well, no, Saturn on my North Node, up it came again. And this is while I'm hobbling around. So my energy levels drop really low, which is very common with Pisces. You lose energy and vitality, right? It's the last sign of the zodiac. So we're releasing and we're emptying. And so really low energy, sore foot. Talk about being slowed down. But what that's been about for me at the deeper level is it's bringing me more and more into the realization that I have to live as a Piscean, right? Because there's all these other parts of me that are more dynamic and, you know, make things. And Pisces is all about surrender and letting go. So this has been the big, you know, and of course we've all had other transits along these lines throughout our life, but this one's really, so I often say, you know, Saturn, you know, often rubs our nose in it, you know, just like, here it is.
Yeah.
You've got to, you know, really come to terms with this. And so it's been really pointing me to certain things that I cannot keep doing. And it's not just that I can't keep doing them because I'm not allowed to or life won't let me. It's because on a deeper soul level, I'm actually longing to let some of these things go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's been resistance. So it's always about, well, really anything going on in Pisces or with Neptune is always about letting go.
Yeah. And also, are you a nighttime chart, aren't you?
No, I'm a daytime.
Are you a daytime chart?
Yeah, before sunset in the afternoon.
Okay, so is Saturn in your 7th or 6th?
No, in my second.
I mean, sorry. Your sun.
Transiting.
Your sun.
7th.
Yes. Yeah. So Saturn is your good guy, actually, you know, like for us day charts in our sect malefic, you know, like Saturn's not our bad boy. Mars is our bad boy, and your bad boy's in Mars in Scorpio.
He's a bad boy.
And I've got the opposite with Mars in bloody Taurus. So it's just hilarious. What a polarity.
Oh, what fun.
Wow. Very, very Saturnian. Very, very Saturnian. Thank you so much for sharing.
And it's always with Saturn, I have found over the years that through all of these challenges that he brings our way, we get clarity. That to me is one of the greatest gifts of Saturn. Eventually, after we stop resisting so much, you know, clarity comes. That's great. That's a great benefit.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And you know, and speaking of Pisces and all these things, this is exactly what we're going into for Babula's talk. When I approached Babula, she was like, I think I want to talk about the anaretic degree, because we're going to have 29 Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces for the first time in our entire lives. We've never experienced that. And you would have, especially if you've got my 2023 kit, you would have already seen and heard me talk about Pluto entering Capricorn 29 degrees this year in 2023 for the first time in 248 years. And then next year, we will also have Neptune entering 29, the anaretic 29 degree, which is also the first time in 165 years that we experience that. So Babula is going to be sharing about the anaretic degree, really, and again, talking into Pisces, which she does so well. I often, when it comes around for me to do this, the person who's speaking on something gets quite a, visceral, like, something in the chart, or they experience it, or they know it. And I think that that's the best way as a teacher to be teaching something we live and embody as well in astrology, right?
Yes, I agree. And from our own direct experience. And
Exactly. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this. I've got a heap of dates, I'm sure. If she does or if she doesn't, I've got.
Yeah, I do too. I've
got my usual, got my dates down. I've got my thing of notes, but I always hand it over to my beautiful guest, and I look forward to unpacking this so that we're all aware of this pretty huge transit next year. 29 degrees of Pisces is the end of the entire zodiac wheel. It is not to be sneezed at. Like, we want to know about this, so I can't wait. So take it away. I'm going to mute myself, and I'll only come back on when we need to chat.
When you want to jump in. And great, beautiful,
of course.
So for those who don't know, who may be new to astrology or haven't come across this little piece of it, the anaretic degree is 29 degrees of any sign of the zodiac. So it's the final degree, because we don't say there's 30 degrees of a sign. Once a planet hits the end of 29 degrees and gets to 29 degrees 59 minutes, it clicks over into 0 degrees of the next sign. So it's right at the end of a sign, of any sign. And I've always been aware of anaretic degrees, but hadn't, because there's so many things in astrology we can work with and play with, I hadn't really given it a whole lot of attention. Somehow this year it's really got my attention, because as we know, there are many planets over the next couple of years changing sign, big slow moving outer planets. So that's a big deal. And I happen to have Mercury in my own chart at 29 degrees of Pisces. So many people watching this will have something in their chart at 29 degrees of a sign. And so this year I've been really very conscious of anaretic degrees, because I've been watching throughout the year as any planet moving at different speeds through the sky, through the zodiac, when it's about to change sign and is sitting at 29 degrees, I've started to notice directly in my own experience, like, how strong that is. Going, wow, these anoretics are really strong, because I was really feeling it and really noticing it. So it really got my attention a lot more. So I started digging around more and thinking about it and pondering about it, and doing a bit of research in charts. As I don't know about you, but I love to do research. We just pull up like hundreds of charts and start looking and noticing different planets at 29 degrees of a sign, or what's happening, for people when a planet's at that last degree. So I've got a definition of what the word anaretic means, and I've got it up here, so I'll read it. And it comes from the Greek word that means destroyer, or that which kills. That's really strong. But what it actually refers to is that it's about something is coming to an end. Something is coming to completion. It's about to be finished. It's about to be over and done with. And then there's a whole new energy or a new phase that comes in, and it reminds me, there's many different analogies we could use and metaphors we could use to understand this. There's many, but one that came to me recently, I really like. It's those of us who've birthed babies and have been through pregnancy. In those last couple of weeks of being pregnant, and if the pregnancy has gone well, many women, and myself included, really enjoyed being pregnant. In that last week or two, we're like, oh, I'm so over this. I'm ready for this baby to get out of me. It's just, we're big, we're heavy. It's just, God, I've had enough, come on, baby, let's move, get this thing done. But it comes when it's ready. And once that baby arrives and moves out of the mother's womb, it is born. And I think that's a beautiful analogy for this 29 /0 degrees experience. You know, it's like giving birth, but at 29 degrees, it's, yeah, no, not yet. Not yet. You know, hang in there. There's a bit more to go. Not ready yet. But very often there's a feeling of, oh God, can we just move on, please? Can we? I'm so done with this. Particularly with the really slow moving planets. For example, Pluto, who's been in Capricorn since 2008. And boy, oh boy, have we individually in the world experienced the power of that one. So I will give some dates on the Pluto story. So Pluto has come to 29 degrees of Capricorn already this year. And as we know, there was about 2.5 months early in the year when it was at 0, actually literally 0.5 degree of Aquarius. So from mid-February to almost the end of March of this year, for 6 weeks, Pluto sat at 29 degrees of Capricorn. He retrograded, slipped into Aquarius for a period, and then in the middle of June to the end of July for another 6 weeks. Now retrograde, he slipped back at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So we crossed that cusp. It's almost like, you know, the baby's born. No, not yet. Back we go. Now on the 23rd of December this year, Pluto is now direct, so he's on the move again, right? Turned direct at 27. Now he's on the move, and he's going to be picking up speed on the 23rd of December. He will hit 29 degrees again, right? So he's still currently sitting at 27. And on the 20th of January, 20th, 21st, he will be at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So that around Christmas, New Year, the end of the year, and into January, we will have another taste of this powerful planet at the very end, at an anaretic degree, of this very powerful sign of Capricorn. And so, you know, you may not be recalling what was going on back in those earlier times this year, but we'll get a chance to look at, experience this directly at the end of this year and into January, and then watch and experience. You know, when we pay attention, we energetically feel it, don't we? You know, we feel the energy change. So it's usually quite intense when a planet's at the last degrees. And, you know, as I look at different astrologers, you know, way of understanding anaretic degrees, it brings up different ideas. So I've been looking at this throughout the year and kind of pondering and checking out what I experience with these things. So one of the things that commonly seems to come up is, at an anaretic degree, we find it quite challenging to make a clear decision, because we're sort of in a no man's land liminal space. Something is coming to a close. Something is almost done, but it's not quite done. It's not quite there yet. It reminds me of, you know, kids in the car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And I actually think many of us are feeling that, like, are we there yet? You know, there's just so much going on in the world. Are we on the other side yet? No, we're not. Yeah, things keep happening, but we're not there yet. But that's the feeling of it. There's a sense of something new is coming, but we're still in this. And that can be quite challenging, and that makes sense to me, that it's often difficult for us to make just a clear, straightforward decision, because there's a sense of, yeah, but something's going to change, and I'm not really quite sure what to do right now because I don't know what's going to happen. So I think one of the key things about anaretic degrees is to understand that we're letting go, we're processing a lot, things are coming to a head, things are coming to completion, but we're not there yet. And until we're there, we are continuing to karmically, I think it's a very karmic degree, to karmically work through, process, release, understand, get insight about whatever are the issues associated with both the planet that's at that degree and that sign, because it's like it's come to the end of the sign. So in 2008, when he moved to 0 degrees of Capricorn, the world economic crisis happened. The world economies crashed, especially in America. And that had a huge impact around the world. Many people lost their homes, particularly in America. It was a really, really big deal, and lots of other things were going on. So when a planet comes to 0 degrees, it's now beginning a new journey, but it's just the beginning. It's quite sort of virgin, like a newborn baby. It's not a fully formed, developed person yet. It's a human person yet, but it's here. It's arrived, and it's still new and vulnerable and innocent and unsure, and we don't know how it's going to unfold yet. But there's all these new beautiful opportunities and possibilities, but we're not there yet. And so I think it's a great opportunity, from the 23rd of December, so Christmas. And it's not that 29 degrees is necessarily particularly any different to any other degree. I'm just highlighting the potency of this point at the very end of a sign, because in the middle of a sign, the energy of the sign is kind of fully bloomed. It's just fully developed. It's kind of has a sense of, knowing who and what it is. And then as we come towards the end of the sign, something about those energies are falling away. And of course, Capricorn is on a worldly level about, the systems of worldly power, all the structures and systems and organizations of governments and banking and so on and so on, all the systems. In our own lives, it's to do with our own sense of inner authority, maybe our work, our business, how our life is structured. What is the current structure of your life? What's the shape and form of it? If you're running a business, if you're in a career, if you have a job, like, where are you at with that? And many people will be feeling pretty much about now and during this period, I'm not sure that I want to keep doing this. I'm kind of feeling like I'm done with this, or done with it in this form, in this structure, in this way. Like, I think I'm a bit over it. But I am not quite ready for the next step, because I'm not really seeing what that is. And I don't know that I'm ready to make a big move. And that's where I think the sort of difficulty around making a decision comes in. Not really sure. It's not really clear yet. But this feeling of, it's almost as though the sign's getting a bit tired now. It's like, and so we're all feeling that. I think that's a big issue that happens around these, even 27, 28 degrees, but certainly at 29, it just feels a bit tired and a bit exhausted, a bit worn out, And we feel that very often. Like, many people are saying, God, I'm so over all this blah, blah, blah that's going on in the world. I'm so over it. It's exhausting. Can't we move on, please? So then in 2024, so we're going to have about 7 months at the end of January of Pluto at 0. It goes to 0 to 2 of Aquarius. And then he will turn retrograde and be back at 29 degrees early September through to 20 November. So that's about 3 months, and he won't get off the 29 degrees. He won't get off that. He won't even go back to 28. He's going to sit on that 29 from early September to the 20th of November. And that will be quite strong. And he's there for a long time, because he's going to do he's going to turn direct during that. It's going to change direction, so they always slow down. So that's a big chunk of time for him to be sitting on 1 degree, slow-moving Pluto. And that's the final stand, right? That's the final piece around all these issues that we're facing in our own lives and also in the world, with worldly structures and systems and top-down control and power and the so-called elites that they love to call themselves and so on. It's like the top of the pyramid, isn't it? The mountain, the Capricorn. And I'm not dissing Capricorn. I have great respect for the sign. I'm talking about Pluto's job is to root out, the corruption, the dark misuse of energies and power in any sign. So he's doing a mighty job of that in Capricorn. And we're all a bit over it. Right? But so we're going to get this lovely 7-month window in the first part of the year of Pluto in the new sign. It doesn't mean everything will suddenly be roses, of course. Pluto after all. But it will feel in many ways like a bit of a relief. And then early September is like, yeah, but we're not done yet, are we?
Yeah.
We've got this little bit still to go, and we have to do it, and it's going to be intense. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the feel of these anaretic degrees, and I think it's made really clear with these slow-moving planets, because we're just sitting in it, because they sit there for a while. Yeah.
I think it's an interesting way that he finishes, that he is going to just go, I am back into Capricorn for the final time, but I'm going to stay right on the last degree. It's sort of like, it ain't over until the fat lady sings, is how I see it.
Yep.
Like, to the nth degree, though. Like, it is just not over. Like, it's like you still haven't learnt, like it's still governments and structures and, and big businesses, companies, it's still happening, and it's still not ready to fully ingress into Aquarius. And it's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about the whole patriarchal paradigm, which has been around a long time, way before Pluto moved into Capricorn.
Exactly.
But Pluto in Capricorn has brought it, and he said has brought it all to the surface. So it's become visible and clear. Pluto, great respect for Pluto.
There's nowhere to hide. There was nowhere to hide with Pluto.
Nowhere to hide. He's going to bring it all up.
Yeah,
that's right. From deep underground. So,
and also, just quickly before you move on, if you're going to talk about Neptune soon, but with the Pluto still being at 29 as we move into the new year in 2024, January of 2024 numerologically is actually a 9-month. So it's actually about ending. So again, we're not really beginning the year until February numerologically, and then obviously the Chinese New Year in February, the astrological New Year in March, but numerologically January is a 9, not a 1. So again, with Pluto still at 29 degrees, like we're still really going to be feeling that edge before at the end of January, he does move over, and he's actually ingressing into Aquarius with the sun. So the sun and Pluto go from 29 degrees of Capricorn to 0 degrees of Aquarius. I mean, that is not missed on me. That's pretty
exactly.
Like that's a big moment. Like, we want to be watching and very aware, because that's quite monumental. The sun and that power of that luminary coaxing and Pluto both together right there, exactly at both, because 0 degrees is also an anaretic degree. 29 and 0 are both anaretic karmic degrees, and I love
right on the cusp. Yeah,
and I love what you were saying about sort of like the 15 degree-ish mark of any sign is like the full moon. Like, you're like, it's accumulated. And I've seen it as like the 0 degree is the new moon. It's just beginning the journey. It's the Fool. And then the 15 degree mark is that full moon. It's the culmination. But then that 29 degrees, that balsamic, it's the full purge, full death. I call the anaretic degree of 29 like the death portal. It's like the final push, the final scream. It's like the orgasm. It's the baby being born. Like, it's final, like it's finally here. And then the 0 degrees. But it's amazing stuff. It
is amazing, and it's final, isn't it? Because when the planet changes sign, there's no going back, particularly for the final time in 2024. That's it. He's done with Capricorn. He's not going back for 250 years.
That's right.
It's done.
Yep.
And then there's this feeling of, wow, we are actually now in a new place. So we're getting glimpses of it, with the 2.5 months earlier this year, and then the 7 months or so of the first part of next year. but it's not till November when he's finally out. He's out. And I don't know about you, but I think the whole planet's going to go, wow. And it doesn't mean, as I said, everything's then going to be roses. Of course not. But it's an absolute, a tremendous sense of release, you know, a release. And it's going to be fascinating to see how all this plays out.
It is.
Yeah. But in the meantime, things continue to get intense, and in many ways even more intense. You know, is this old paradigm regime is desperately wanting to cling. And that's, I think, something that happens around these anaretic degrees. We try and hold on to what has been, even if it's not really working very well anymore. You know, and so anyone with an anaretic degree in their own chart, you know, think about that. Look at that. Look at what is the planet and what is the sign? What is it that we try and maintain, hold on to here that's actually needing to release and relinquish and let go? And the other thing about that is that I think it's important to see is that like a balsamic moon. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to mention that as well. It's another great metaphor for this. There's always, in that releasing and letting go, there's the gem, there's the gold that remains. You know, what is the gold that comes out of that then can be carried through into the next phase or into the next sign? Yeah. So a lot will be relinquished. A great deal will be relinquished. You know, our faith or belief, to whatever degree it has been in the past, of these systems and organizations, you know, so it's just all falling away. Like people just finally, you know, like losing faith in all of those systems, which is pretty wonderful, really. But it's painful. It's a painful process. We don't like that. You know, we want things to be okay, and we like things to stay the same in many ways. Well, you know, they can't. So it is.
We're going to talk about Pluto in Aquarius. I mean, it's been talked about. We'll continue to talk about it because it's new for all of us. But, you know, no shade. But I mean, I think Pluto in Aquarius is going to be pretty fucking gnarly. Like, it's still a traditionally Saturn-ruled sign, so we're actually not out of the works. But now Uranus is involved because Uranus rules Aquarius, modern. And so there's going to be more eccentric chaos, disruption, rebellion. There's going to be more of that. But you know, we're moved from a cardinal sign, which realistically is driven and tenacious and patient. And yes, it's destructuring, or, you know, or crumbling absolutely everything as we know it. But now we move into the fixed air sign where people don't want to change their mind. You know, like there's going to be a very interesting 20 years that we now live with Pluto in Aquarius, and a whole world of new fucking weird shit happens there. Hello, AI. Like, you know, people are fucking already marrying fucking people on the internet who aren't actually real. And, you know, it's happening, you know, cloning, all these sorts of things. So do we move from humanity to fucking robots? Like, what's actually going on? It's getting wild. But yes, when we're talking really that anaretic degree, and I can't wait to hear about the Neptune stuff, because it's really the end of the end of the end of the end of the end.
Yes.
We will never, ever experience Neptune in Pisces again in our lives. So but that there's just this, you know, there is a relief. There is absolutely a relief that it's out of Capricorn. But I'm such a fucking realist. I'm like, unfortunately, Aquarius is still ruled. I mean, I love Saturn in Capricorn. So for me, 2020 and all that, fuck yeah, Saturn in Capricorn, he is my guy. Love him there.
Well, he's at home, isn't he?
Yeah. He's at home. He's in great in cardinal energy. Love that. Saturn in Aquarius, like, I don't care that he's the traditional ruler. I'm like, I speak to Saturn, and Saturn fucking hates it in Aquarius because he is too tight and everyone is black and white and against each other. Yes. Saturn has this urge that I want to thrive and I actually want to succeed. But in fixed air Aquarius, like, he was very, and we've seen it, the dogma, the you versus me, I'm against you, like everyone hating on each other, which you took something the government told you to, or you didn't. So now we all hate each other. Like, like Aquarius is a very cold, detached, very good for so many other things, objective and progressive and genius, of course. Like we're going to see some very interesting things with Pluto in Aquarius, but there's still this Saturn edge, because if you meet
Yes.
Aquarius, they're not always what you think they are. Like people think Aquarians, progressive, are some of the most fixed, rigid, black and white humans I know. And yes, astrology isn't human based, but this is the archetype. There is very
Yes.
Saturnian Aquarians and very
Yes.
Uranian Aquarians.
Yes.
And they are two very, very, very different planets.
Yes. And so they're very different animals when they express either of that. That's
Exactly.
right. That's exactly. I'm with you on that, because I know many people are like, oh, I can't wait for Pluto to go into Aquarius. It's going to be wonderful. I'm like, yes, this is the sign of the Aquarian age and humanity, and it is time for the people to run this planet.
Absolutely.
For human, absolutely, and I'm all for that. And Pluto's job is to expose the shadow and the dark side of whatever sign he's moving through or whatever planet he's transiting. And yeah, it's going to show us all that side of Aquarius, that mind control,
Yes.
that fixed thinking, that I'm right and you're wrong.
Yep.
Yep, that
Very
right.
black and white, very, Aquarius, God complex, there's a
Yep.
lot there. There's a lot that's going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, yeah. And I love the energy of Aquarius. I enjoy Aquarius energy, and I'm very aware, because I'm really strong on that, and we have to consider the shadow of every sign and every planet.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, these are big times, but what it is, of course, it's a definite change, an
Yes.
absolute irrefutable change of energy once he's finally out of Capricorn. And so this 29 0 degrees, things can get quite intense.
For sure.
We're not finished and we're not there yet. It's like that. We're sitting, and that's why it's like, I'm not quite sure which way to move, what to do. Yeah. So Neptune.
Yes.
So Neptune will start the year it's currently at 27, I think, but will start the year at 25 degrees of Pisces. And on the 4th of May, moving in forward motion, will come to the 29 degrees. So it will be moving through, fairly quickly relative for Neptune's speed. He's in a sign for 14 years, for those who may be new to this. So slow moving outer planet will come to the 29 degrees for the first time in a long, long time on the 4th of May. And will be on that degree for 5 months. The reason he's there for so long is because he moves so slowly, and during that 5-month period, he will turn retrograde. Now, this is what's really interesting about Neptune in 2024. He actually gets to 29 degrees and 56 minutes. And then he stops and goes, yeah, we're not going there yet. We're not going to move into Aries yet. We're almost, you can almost see it, right? Yeah, no, we've got to go back. I find that really amazing. 29 degrees and 56 minutes on the 3rd of July, Neptune will stop and turn back. That's why he's sitting on this degree for 5 whole months, through May through to early September. So he's right on that degree, but he doesn't move into Aries in 2024. He nudges it. It's like he can, it's like the baby coming out of the womb. You're like, you can see the head. I can see it. Yeah, no, not coming yet. It's not time. Yeah. Or the mother's having contractions, but nothing's really happening yet. It might be days later before the birth actually starts to happen. So it won't be until 2025 in March, in late March, that Neptune will actually move to 0 degrees of Aries. So as you know, and many people who've been following astrology and watching this know, over the next couple of years, pretty much all the slow-moving outer planets within 3 to 4 years all change sign. Now, that is phenomenal, and it is a massive indication of we are in a time collectively of huge transition. The potential for humanity to continue to accelerate, to awaken out of this dream and fog, matrix fog that we've been living in for so long is huge. And everyone does it at their own pace in their own particular way. There's no formula or recipe for this. It is huge, and it's not an easy process. You know, I did a lot of work years ago on the astrology of enlightenment itself, which is a very topic dear to my heart. And it's very interesting. And I've been around, you know, genuinely enlightened people in my life. And I'm not talking about, you know, false teachers and, you know, pretend gurus. I'm talking about, you know, really, truly awakened people. And their story is always one that, you know, the prelude to that state is very challenging. It's not just sudden, in most cases.
Yeah.
It's not just all of a sudden like, oh, I've arrived. No, it's like they go through often hell. It could be through their whole life or for a number of years before that time comes. So it's a big deal. It's a big process. A Scorpio spiritual teacher that I'm aware of describes it as a process of destruction. He said, you know, you need to stop thinking about it as some pretty beautiful thing. It's actually a destruction of everything you've known. And that's, I think, what we're going through, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything we've known is just falling apart and falling away and going through destruction and dismantling. And it's full on. It's not easy for we humans.
No.
Yeah. So 29 degrees of Pisces, as you said, it's like the anaretic degree of the anaretic sign. You know, the last sign of the zodiac is all about release and surrender. And I have felt for some time, it's not just because I can relate to it personally, I observe it around me and other people who have strong Pisces signatures in their chart. I think it's a very karmic sign in that things may not go the way you want them to or the way you think they should. They're going to go the way they need to. And so it's very much about learning to just surrender and let go and allow. And again, that's not easy. We like to be in control. We like to think we're in control. We humans, you know, we all have an ego structure.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't like this.
Mm-mm.
So
both Saturn and Neptune, you know, moving through Pisces, like it's a big time of surrender and release, and the illusions and the glamour and the false prophets, everything is collapsing. So not only is Pluto collapsing the last part of maybe what we think of as structural, the governments, obviously, those, you know, elites, all the things that you've spoken about with Pluto in Capricorn, but now the Neptune and Pisces, and I often say that, you know, sort of like Pisces, Neptune stuff, it's like Hollywood. It's just like it's built on lies, on sand,
yes,
and it's illusion. Like it's
all
a fucking
illusion.
it's a mirage in the middle of the fucking desert because you're thirsty, right? Like that's what it is. And people, and this is a quote that I love for Pluto, but it's very much too around Neptune, is that people eat lies when they're hungry, and everyone's hungry and they're happy to eat lies because no one wants to face the truth. No one wants to face reality. No one wants to have to take accountability and be responsible for maybe the fucked up decisions or the stupid fucking things that they've done or said or whatever. You know, the trust that they've put in possibly outside sources, governments, all those things, doctors, everything. Like,
right.
This is what is falling. It is
That's right.
all collapsing.
And the veils are falling away from our eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
I mean, and it's harder for people who haven't done the work. I'm going to say, like, for me, I'm just like 2020 came and I'm like, finally, everyone's catching up. Like, fuck yeah, man. Like, this has been my whole life. Like, I have lived my life like this. Like, none of this surprises me. I'm not like, oh my God, like, finally I see. I'm like, hello, like, this is what humanity needed. And it's the ones who want to eat the lies because, you know, they're so hungry and ravenous. it's hard for them. And I've been saying this all year, especially in 2023. If you're not in alignment, you're in a lie. If you are not facing reality and the truth, you must be fucking struggling this year. And
Yes.
that's coming from even struggle. Like, we all still as humans go through stuff. Like, I'm not
Yes.
fucking not going through human experiences
Yes.
for me and humble me to my bones. But at the
Yes.
same time, the people that are so closed off and so here and blinkers on, like, it must be, you know, marriages, jobs, economy, finances, everything is falling. And if they don't start to come within and you know, and do this work, I mean, the 2020s are only getting more intense. So,
Yes.
you know, like, I don't know,
Exactly.
it's
Exactly, darling. And now with
to be honest.
Pisces in this last sign, this is the time for us all individually and collectively to face all that stuff. He's, as I said earlier, he's not going to let us off the hook. And the other thing, another important piece that reminded me when you were speaking of that about Pisces, it's the sign of addictions.
And escapism.
And why do we want to escape? Because it's difficult. I've been saying this for years. It's a tough gig being human. It's a tough gig.
And you know it. You know,
Absolutely.
the Pisces feels that, they experience it, because
Yes.
it's more harsh, like spiky on a Pisces, on someone with strong Pisces energy in their chart, than any of us. Like, we've all got Pisces somewhere, absolutely, but I don't have any Pisces planets, but I've got 2 planets in my 12th house. But at the same time, like, that's why escapism, drugs, addiction, cults, gurus, looking outside is easy, because then you don't have to hold that. So I can, like, it's a big thing to hold.
That's right. And so this time now of Neptune coming to the end of Pisces and Saturn moving Pisces, and of course Saturn, as you know, is going to catch up to Neptune. And finally, at the very end in early 2026, they step into Aries together. I was kind of almost imagine them holding hands, like, you ready? Okay, let's go. Let's do this. Bam, they step. They'll both be at 0 degrees. That's unbelievable. That just
Unbelievable.
blows my mind.
And between October of 2025 and January of 2026, Saturn and Neptune both do, like Babula said, Neptune does move into Aries. And Saturn also moves into Aries. So they both actually edge in again, giving us a preview. Then they both retrograde. Then they're both hanging out at the 29 degrees of Pisces together before they hold hands and move. And they're two very very different planets,
very different.
reality, you know, illusion, truth, non-truth. Like, they're very, very different. So, you know, that 27th of Jan for Neptune in 2026 is Neptune's ingress. And I can't remember if Saturn goes a couple of days before or a couple of days after, but they're very, very close.
Very, very close. That's right. Very, very close. And the other thing that I think it's also important to say about this strong Pisces theme, particularly with Neptune, it is truly the sign, and Neptune, the planet of the agony and the ecstasy. So Neptune, when we let go, and many of us will have had experience, which is one of the reasons why people drink alcohol and take drugs, because they get to release all the cares of the day or life or their world and go into this other space with, oh, that feels better, right? But ultimately, at a soul level, we can have those spiritual experience, those spiritual states of bliss and ecstasy, when we let go and truly deeply surrender. And surrendering is often quite a painful thing. I've had many experiences where I've been in deep emotional pain, and when I've finally just surrendered to it, and you can be on your knees on the floor in the middle of the night, you know, weeping. Very soon after, it's almost like a miracle, like something happens. But the surrendering is a prerequisite, if you like, you know, to just let go. Like, and it's a realization that I can't control any of this. I've been through so much surrendering of control in the last 12 months. I've had no choice, no other option, in all kinds of different ways in my life, in different ways. And it gets really subtle, right? It gets very subtle, very, very fine, and just going, just let go of this. Just, it doesn't matter. Let it go. It doesn't matter. And that's like a little mantra to go, you know what? It really doesn't matter. What do you, getting so upset about that. Just let it go. And every time that happens, on whatever level it does, something in me opens up and feels more spacious. And I go, it feels better. Right. And I feel more relaxed. And then whatever the circumstance was around me that I was trying to control in some way, it starts to magically change as well. Yeah. So there's something around this process of relaxing, letting go, allowing, taking our hands off the wheel, even if it's something we really think, yes, but it should be that way. It really should be that way. Really? Does it really matter? Do you act? I think a great question with this, as we come to the end of Pisces, is, yeah, but did you really have any control over it? Do you have any control, really? Yeah, actually, no. So why don't you just let go? And something happens in that letting go that somehow things just seem to get better. But we resist it like crazy because our ego structure is, I'm in control of this, and I know what's right, and I know what's best, and I know how this should be. Really? Do we?
That's right.
So this is a big part of the process, and actually it's an invitation for us to lighten up, to loosen up, to be more available, to open up our psyche, our intuition, our connection to spirit, to God, to the universe, to whatever that is for us, in whatever way we understand that. Let the crown chakra open up, let those other states, those other exalted states become more available. It's so much more freeing. Life is so much more enjoyable. And then, of course, the next heavy transit comes and we're back in it again, but it's an ongoing process.
Right. It's evolution. It's
yeah.
Part of us evolving. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is huge for all of humanity. When we face really uncomfortable truths, hard truths, thank you, Saturn and Pluto, when we actually face them, sooner or later, it actually starts to feel a hell of a lot better, because something in us knows what's real, but we resist and we struggle against it.
Yeah, we lie to ourselves, we wear those rose-colored glasses, and we hang our hats on hope, and interestingly enough, just on that bit, I just want to speak into the deacon that this is happening to, because it's really in alignment with what we're talking about, Babula. And so ultimately it's the deacon 3 of Pisces, because it is the last deacon, 29 degrees of Pisces, which is ruled by Mars. And happens to be also the sign. Scorpio is also the ruler of the last decan of Pisces as well. And Pisces, as we know, and Scorpio, as we know, has 2 rulers, and one's Mars, so it's a double Mars decan, and one is Pluto. And the major card for this is the Tower, but then the actual, I know, can you believe that, in a beautiful Pisces moment, can you believe that it's the Tower? And then what we're looking at with the tarot is the 10 of Cups, which is actually around bliss. But how then does the bliss and the Tower work? And that's the thing, because it's around illusion. So the 10 of Cups sees the vision of the rainbow and the happiness and the fulfillment. But something that I have actually copied from the book that I get this information from is this a vision of hope? Is this a fantasy to fulfill or an illusion to shatter? And I think that really, speaks so strongly into the last degree of the entire zodiac wheel. It is before we move into, before we are the Fool, we are born again, we rebirth. This is what you're doing, trying to fulfill a fantasy or an illusion to shatter. Like, what have you fulfilled during this time of Neptune in Pisces? What's really there, and what's just an illusion? What's a fantasy? What's shattering? The Tower card itself is the destruction of the ego, so there's destruction going on. But then this 10 of Cups, which is hope, don't get me wrong, it is fulfillment and family and vision, and it is happiness. But the 10 itself, the 1 and the 0, is an ending and a new beginning. It's sort of like anaretic in a way, because it's the 1, which is the beginning, the 0, which is like the Ouroboros, it's never ending end at the beginning. So
Yeah.
you know, we're amplified with that, and it really just speaks so, of course, because I've been doing the deacon walk this year, so I'm very, you know,
Yeah.
entrenched in understanding. I mean, the deacons is actually what I first learned when I was 15 about astrology, so the deacons have always been a really strong part of my practice. But doing the deacons with tarot, and I don't really know much about tarot, and then I read the shit and I'm like, oh my god, like that is unbelievable
Wow.
what we're speaking into as this final deacon of the entire zodiac. You know, the moon represents Pisces, the moon card. And again, even with moon, the moon is illusion, what's real, what's not. So again, we're really dismantling a whole lot of things on a collective scale. And again, for you personally, you're looking at, you know, your Pisces house, that 29 degrees of Pisces, like that is the end of the end of the end for you. And what's dissolving there, like what's really going to dissolve away. And yeah, I just found the deacon, you know, and the 10 of cups, so, you know, and that double score, like that double Mars energy, but the tower. And I was like, whoa, like this is a time. And Neptune is on 29 degrees, you know, from May to September, like it's months. So
That's
it's
right.
hard. It's a very big signature of 2024.
That's right. And into 25 too, it'll be on
Yeah.
that degree as well. That's fascinating about the tower. That's so apt. There's another piece to that in esoteric astrology, which is based on the 7 rays and so on. They say that the ruler of Pisces is Pluto.
Wow.
How about that?
That's interesting.
So,
Yeah.
so there's this very strong theme of, you know, endings.
Yes.
Yes.
Death, destruction,
Dissolution,
power.
dissolving. That's right.
Exactly.
Emptying. So it's, to me, Pisces is very much about we empty out, we empty. And the more we empty, the more space there is available for something that is real and true to be available and to be present. You know, so it is big. Humanity's on the verge of an incredibly, you know, people call it new world, new earth, and so on, but it really is real. But it's not something that, there's not a moment where that happens. It is an absolute process, and we're in it. It's why everything is so intense. And of course, just briefly to touch on, Jupiter will of course change signs, because he does every year. But, you know, there'll be only a few short days actually when Jupiter's at 29 degrees of Taurus. And that's from the 23rd of May to the 26th. So it's just, again, you know, that moment before a planet changes sign, and then when it does, so that's going to be a week of Jupiter in this process as well. And of course, as we know, the signs, as they sit next to each other in the zodiac, they're incredibly different to each other. You know, each neighboring sign has nothing in common with the one preceding it or after it. So Capricorn to Aquarius, yes, both ruled by Saturn, but also very different. Pisces to Aries, very different. Taurus to Gemini, very different. So it's a very interesting process to watch. And even as the sun, you know, when the sun's at 29 degrees of a sign every 4 weeks and is about to change sign, that's what I've been doing this year. I've been paying attention and noticing. It's got my attention, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great invitation to, again, start living astrology and actively participating in not only your own chart where that might be happening, but also the macro, and feeling the intensity of the energy. Because yeah, I mean, the anaretic degrees aren't to be sneezed at, but that 29th degree is it is strong. It's very visceral.
Yes. And it reminds me too of you know, when the moon's at the last degrees of a sign, they call it void of course.
Right.
You know, and it is said that's not a time to make important decisions or start new projects, because something is coming to an end before it changes sign. So it's the same kind of metaphor. It's the same thing, isn't it? Like
it's a void. It is a void.
It's a void. It is a void. And
bringing up Jupiter too as well, like remembering that Jupiter for those few days in Taurus will be making that sextile to Neptune, you know. So Jupiter's then sort of, you know, there's something opportunistic there, like that, you know, there is the void, but also don't forget the magic. Like 29, 2 and 9 equals 11. 11 is mastery. 11 is a master number. So even numerologically, the 29 as an 11 is is again, even at 29, we usually have a Saturn return. So again, there's this
Exactly.
mastery that we can have, so we can actually gain some pretty, and this is like birth, you know, like I always talk about this as like being the eye of the needle, which is that birth canal. But think about if you have given birth, like when you think you can't, you just go a little bit more. And that's the 29th degree as well. It's like that final breath. And just when you think you don't, you do.
That's
And
right.
so there is some magic that can be, you know, that we can have in our cauldron in the 29th Anaretic degree too.
That's right.
Like it is death, destruction, rebirth, and finality, but there's also the gold, like you spoke about, like not just there is, it's like you've sifted through all that, and then all of a sudden there's the gold, and it's that extra
That's
bit of magic that you didn't
that's right.
know. So some of these like
Yep.
aspects that we're having to Neptune next year are interesting, and Jupiter sextile Neptune before he moves into Gemini, which he hasn't done in, which of course I'll be talking about on the panel with a guest, but you know, which hasn't happened for 12 years. But before he
Yes.
does, he wants to make that connection with Neptune, right? A beautiful connection with
Yes.
Neptune.
And he'll also make a trine to Pluto.
Yep.
Because, you know, as we know, you know, Pluto and Neptune have been traveling in a sextile for pretty much the last 100 years or so,
Yeah.
just holding that sextile. So it's kind of all happening at the same time.
Is. And also just like there's some really interesting things early September. You know, the 3rd of September is when, you know, Neptune will start to go back to like 28 degrees.
Yeah.
But on the 3rd of September too, Mars is edging towards 29 degrees of Gemini, which is a square to Neptune, at the same time that Pluto is at stations, you know, stations, or no, the same time that he gets to 29 degrees of Capricorn. So Pluto actually moves to that 29 degrees of Capricorn in his retrograde, 3rd of September. 3rd of September is when Neptune's, you know, just edging out of 29, but at the same time Mars is there. So Mars is going to be giving this very interesting edge to Neptune, a square, and a quincunx to Pluto. So it's just be mindful of the 3rd of September, just saying, like that first few days of September, it just feels very tetchy. Adjustments need to be made. There might be some volatility. Watch the words, watch illusions, watch your energy levels, because it's a very weird sort of, there's some weird shit going down.
Yes. I know there's a few interesting dates coming up. Well, there always is. My God, there always is.
Oh, I think that, you know, just for everyone too that's been listening to this, you know, how will this affect me? You know, I just want to say that if you've got late degree mutable, you know, Pisces, you know, being at 29 degrees, late degree cardinal, Pluto being at 29 Capricorn, you know, there's some edges going on, because this is having a square, an intense aspect to those things. If, you know, if you've got water, for Pisces, you know, late degrees of water signs, you know, there's a beautiful trine. Like this is actually really harmonious and conducive to spiritual growth, and you know, it's quite beautiful. So check your own charts for those 29 degrees of Capricorn and 29 degrees of Pisces, to just have a look at what's hovering around there in the other signs opposite each of those signs as well, to find those final oppositions that everyone's going to go through.
Yes, and anyone who's got a planet in their birth chart at 29 degrees of any sign, you know, to really sort of look at that and consider that as there's some kind of karmic completion going on here. And out of that can come something very kind of pure and beautiful, but things don't go the way we think they should go, or that we want them to go, or we might be feeling like, why can't I seem to get this one together? But I think with these karmic anaretic degrees, it seems to me from my observation that it's later in life that we start to get a sense of, okay, I can see what the gem is here about this, you know, but often in the earlier part of the life, there's a difficulty here, there's a struggle here, because it is karmic for sure. There is something here that's, we've come in to release and complete. Yep.
I definitely think that's really bang on. Like pre-Saturn return too, like probably more
Exactly.
pre-Saturn
Exactly.
return. You know,
Exactly.
you don't really get your big girl or big boy pants on until you've had your Saturn
No,
return. You're
you
in
do not.
that bubble, you know, like.
You do not. That's right. Like astrologers know that officially you're not an adult until you've had your Saturn return.
And apparently science is now backing that up. You know, they've done some scientific things that have said that the brain, these particular
Right.
parts of the brain aren't actually fully functioning and fully developed until between 28 and 30. I'm like, oh, Saturn return, how very science of you. You know,
I
it's
know. It's
always a
hilarious,
small
isn't it?
thing. It is. And then the science decides to waft in with these wonderful revelations that astrologers have been talking
And
about
we're
for
all going,
thousands of
yeah.
years. Yeah, like
Right.
duh. Of course, you know, like duh. Oh, it's been so beautiful, really just diving into what the anaretic feels like. You know, I
Mm.
think that that's been a really great teaching and lesson for everyone today, not just about, you know, Pisces and Capricorn next year. Yes, these are very, very big transits and signatures, so be eyes wide open, but at the same time, like what's going to come up for you within that. Watch the world, you know, like there's some
Yes.
big
And
things.
I think to also we have to also take care of ourselves a bit with these energies because there is this tiredness. It's a certain kind of heavy feeling. Pluto at the end of Capricorn, Neptune at the end of Pisces, you know, deep in the water, you know, Pluto, the underworld, Capricorn, you know, it's not a lightweight energy. And so sometimes you might feel like we're in an undertow. And we need to take care of ourselves and rest and not try to push things and force things and make things happen because we're releasing and we're letting go of the old. We're not charging ahead in some grand new scheme, you know, we're really in this deep process. I mean, other things will be happening that will allow us to move and do these things. But with these ones, particularly if they're impacting your chart personally, we've got to respect that, you know, and work with the process. Yeah.
And even you just saying that too, like, you know, the Capricorn you know, archetype is the actual sea goat, and so it
Yeah.
has the mermaid tail deep
Yep.
in the
Yep.
ocean. So
Yep.
again, you know, yes, Neptune and Pluto do, you know, are in sextile for, you know, hundreds of years. Like that's just what is a normal relationship. But in Pisces and Capricorn, it's been a very interesting journey because of the Capricorn's depth and what's also not seen. You know, sometimes in a very sort of shadowy Capricorn, it is very materialistic and I'm successful, I'm blinging, I'm going to hide who I really am because I'm protecting myself with stuff and status, and you know, I don't really want anyone to come in. But the deep psychic undertone
Yes.
of a Capricorn is that mermaid's tail deep in the ocean, very
Yes.
connected to the fish, very connected to Pisces and that.
Yes.
So, you know, we're in these oceanic times, these oceanic dreaming times, like in a vessel, like I really feel like we are held in this vessel. And, you know, are you drowning? Are you swimming? Are you frolicking? Are you, you know, like what is, you know, I've written here with the water and the drowning and the floating, you know, like what are you doing? Are you floating? Are you, you know, drowning? You know, a lot of people are drowning in that sea of despair, which is very much a Pisces archetype, you know,
That's right.
the two fish, it's drowning in the sea of despair or floating on the ocean of life. Like that is Pisces,
Yes.
you know, and to
And
have.
I, yes, and I think that brings up those feelings of despair and depression and grief and so on is in many ways connected to something at a deep soul level that's longing for another way to be.
Yes.
Struggling on with my life needs to look like this, or I need to stay in this job or in this career, whereas deep inside there's this like, you know, what I really long to do is, but that's not realistic, that's not practical, that's not going to work. But and that's a real dilemma, and that's a real pull, and no wonder we sometimes just feel worn out, depressed, anxious, because we're struggling between these two realities, you know, of what is and what seemed like that's what I have to do, but actually what my heart and soul are longing for is something that looks quite different to that. So that's like sitting in that liminal place of that struggle is a part of this anaretic degree energy as well.
Absolutely.
It's a very deeply soulful process.
Yeah, and I wrote soul grief. You know, when you said the word grief, I'm like, this is Neptune. And
Yeah.
people for the past 3 years are probably, you know, grief has always been around, but people are grieving things that may no longer be tangible to them, or they don't even, you know, there is a collective grief that we all
Yes.
feel. And it's, and you know, and then to have Neptune at the very last degree of the entire zodiac for 2024, 2025, and not until that 27th of January 2026 will Neptune finally ingress into Aries. And so again, it's that final push and pull that Pluto's doing. Now we're going to be doing it with the second slowest planet. You know, like these are transpersonal planets. And yes, you might pick up on things, you know, as they station, all the things, yes, but this is deeply held within our psyche. And the deep grief that society is feeling right now for
Yes.
a myriad of reasons, not just
Yes.
2023, but from 2020, because we
Yes.
always say there is pre-2020 and post-2020. I mean, that
Right.
is the marker. Like that is a
That's
marker.
right. That's right.
You know, don't, again, like Babula said, you know, be gentle with yourself. Like we're not about forcing square pegs into round holes anymore.
Nope.
Like this has to
Nope.
stop, and allow yourself to dissolve and be soft and supple in this vessel, because you know these are big times that we're in. And it's, you know, to think that we will be traversing with Neptune now at this 29th degree also, and Saturn as well, they're hanging around as well before they both ingress into 0 0. I mean, it's going to be very interesting, very interesting.
Very, very, very interesting. Yeah.
I think 2020, I think 2025's panels, surely it's you talking about Neptune and going into Aries. Like I think
Well, darling, I think you're right, because I actually have the Neptune Saturn conjunction in my chart
you do. So there we do. And what do you have it at?
in Libra.
Libra. Oh wow. That is
Mm.
amazing. Oh, we're both Saturn Libra as well. Our exalted
Oh,
Saturn. Lucky us.
right.
Wow, that's amazing. Yes, I think so. Yeah, everyone just can get ready for that. We'll book that one in. That will be 2025. We'll be talking about that
Fabulous.
ingress. Um, yeah, so beautiful always. Thank you so much
Oh,
for so
thank you,
much
darling.
rich like rich conversation, and really, you know, hopefully, yeah, getting everyone to pay more attention to the anaretic degrees, especially if you are a bit of an astrology nerd. Like this is another little protocol that you can go down, like
Yes,
another little
that's right.
rabbit hole. But for all of us collectively, you know, like really be mindful, because you know, it is a this is a big moment. You know, Pisces finally, Neptune finally hitting this spot in Pisces, and you know, us being here to experience it. You know, like I literally wrote all of my notes down listening to The End by The Doors. You know, like this is the end. Like this is how that song is just going to rattle through my fucking psyche now, because it's just, I feel his voice in my bones. I feel the
Yeah.
end, and it's like the end is near. There is nothing to fear. It's the beginning. It's, you know, we're in this again liminal space with Neptune at this anaretic degree, and it's
Yep.
there is bliss, and there's ecstatic, you know,
Yep.
connection, and there's so much there, but there's also the other side of that too. And I think that you've really covered so much for everyone to dive into, Babula. So of course,
Oh,
thank you so
that's
much.
that. Oh, total pleasure always.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoyed that. Of course, leave us comments or message us, and you know, find Babula. I'll have all the links and everything, of course, down in the YouTube notes. And let's ride this one out. Hey, let's see what
Yes.
evolves and it dissolves. I think the
Yes.
evolving and dissolving.
Surfboards out, flippers on.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
love that. Mermaid tails ready.
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Tiani. Bye.
Bye.